It's no coincidence that up to now, you've never seen a Seiko Prospex Alpinist appear on any of my channels or in any of my videos, because I've always tried to focus my content on the watches that I think represent the very best value for money. And back in January 2020, when Seiko released this range of watches for the very first time, they launched 4 watches. They were asking for what I felt was an insane amount of money for, well, not a lot extra. They just stopped producing their old SARB watches, which were significantly cheaper. And actually, at that time, I bought a brand new 017 for half the price that they were asking for their new Alpinist Prospex watches. So I just thought they represented terrible value for money. But boy, in the last 3 years, things have really turned on their heads, because now this watch could cost you close to $1,000 for an unworn example. And you can now find these watches. In fact, I bought this one for roughly 50% off. So the prices have done a complete 180. The old watches are now very, very expensive, and the new ones you can find on occasions very well discounted. So I think now is the time to show you my new Seiko Prospex Alpinist. So you should be familiar with the watch on the left. It is the SARB017. I paid 350 British pounds for this new watch around 3 years ago. And on the right, we've got the SPB209. I paid 344 British pounds for this watch, brand new from a jeweller's in the UK around a month ago. And yeah, it's nice to have one of the new Seiko Prospex Alpinists in my collection. It's going to enable me to produce this video where I can do a quick comparison and, well, just have a look at it with a fresh pair of eyes to see if I think it's now worth the £344 that I had to pay for it. They're not often discounted to that level, but if you're patient, every now and then you will find one. And yeah, I suspect it will be worth it. But yeah, I suspect I'll also still prefer the one on the left. So one of the key differences between these two watches is the movement inside. They're both automatics. The older watch has the 6R15. The new watch has the 6R35, a longer power reserve. But a lot of people consider the older movement to be the more premium movement. It just runs a little bit smoother and more consistently than the newer movement. So I think Seiko would consider it an upgrade, but I think a lot of people out there, Seiko fans, I think they perhaps wouldn't. There are a few other differences between these two watches. The newer watch has a magnifier and the old watch doesn't. I think I prefer the old watch. You've got a nice sort of color-coded frame around the date complication, and yeah, it just well, it looks a bit better balanced, I think. I'm not a fan of that big piece of white in the middle of the dial on this new watch. The old watch has a solid stainless steel case back. The new watch has a display case back. I guess it's nice to see the movement, but they're not particularly good looking movements. So yeah, I think I'd probably prefer the case back on the older watch. They've also changed the straps, not just the appearance, but the buckle type. I much prefer this sort of traditional buckle to this. I mean, I'm going to talk about this buckle in a minute, but yeah, I don't like it. I don't think anybody likes the strap that came on the original watch, that sort of faux croc print strap. It's quite a stiff, cheap feeling strap. No Seiko straps are cheap. Have you ever tried to buy an aftermarket Seiko strap? They are insanely expensive. So yeah, it's probably not a cheap strap, but yeah, it's not that nice, is it? Now, in terms of the style and design of the actual strap, I do prefer the new one. Yeah, it's quite nice actually, but I really, really do not like this buckle. The main reason being, this piece of strap, when you're wearing the watch, should actually sit on the inside of your wrist, and you're going to catch it on your clothes, your jeans. It's just going to be a bit of an irritant, isn't it? I know you've got this retainer here, but this is still going to stick out on the inside of your wrist. Now, I've actually turned my strap around and put it on the outside. What that does mean is this particular area of the buckle isn't that comfortable, so I've not been able to find, well, a solution which means I can comfortably wear this watch. So if I was to wear this regularly, I absolutely would be putting this on a different strap. But yeah, I think that's just a weird design. Can someone explain to me why this now has to be on the inside of our wrist and not on the outside like it should be. Anyway, I'm sure I'll get over it. Let's just have a closer look at the dials, both sunburst dials, very, very similar applied indices and numerals and hands. I'll do a quick loom comparison in a moment. Color-coded print on this one. Contrasting white print on this one, different logo style or size. This one's a bit flatter and wider, isn't it? But other than that, very, very similar. Color-coded minute track, actually. Just generally more color-coded on this dial. It's not as legible, is it? The white contrasting print on this one, far more visible at a glance. In terms of the case shapes, designs, and dimensions, I think they are very, very similar. Not enough changes, I think, to really impact anyone's decision. I mean, the main impact is going to be price, isn't it? That's going to be the deciding factor as to whether or not you want one of these or one of these. Yeah, I can't believe how much these things are going for now. It's insane, absolutely ridiculous. Both watches achieve 200 meters of water resistance, screw-down case backs, screw-down crowns, internal rotating compass bezels. Both watches have sapphire at the front, and the Cyclops is also sapphire. But the crystal in the back is Hardlex on this one, and of course this one is a solid stainless steel case back. So a few fairly obvious changes, a few more subtle differences between these two watches, but all in all actually still really, really quite similar, and both very, very nice watches. I actually do like the colour of this one, and yeah, I think it's got a beautiful brown dial that goes very nicely with the gold hands and gold applied indices, gold logo, gold print even. It's just not as legible and perhaps as practical as this one would be if you were wearing it day to day, but still both gorgeous watches, aren't they? Absolutely stunning. Love them both. But if I was to be forced to choose between these two watches, well, I wouldn't need much encouragement to choose the older SARB017. Yeah, I just think I prefer the movement. I prefer the contrasting print on the dial. I prefer this particular colour combination as much as I do like this one. Yeah, I think the older watch is just the better known and the more appreciated watch for sure. Yeah, I love it. Absolutely love it. But does this new one represent decent value for money now that it's essentially the same price that I paid for the original SARB in 2020? I think it's far better value for money than it was when it was released, obviously full price, £660 for this watch. I really didn't think that represented good value for money at all when they were released, which is why I had no interest whatsoever in reviewing them. I really do not like this style of strap and buckle. That just irritates me. I don't know why, but I just think it's really poorly designed. Unless someone can tell me a very good reason why this should actually be on the inside and what benefit there is to that. Is it just so that they can accommodate this bulky clasp or buckle? Probably. But anyway, let's get back to the point. Yeah, so I think it does represent now actually good value for money. That's why I'm showing it, because if you can pick one of these up for roughly half price, I think they are now contenders. I think these watches do represent good value for money. They're still beautiful, aren't they? And yeah, people are just struggling now to find good examples of these watches at affordable prices. So yeah, if you like this style of watch, yeah, I would definitely wait around to find one that is well discounted. It might not be the colour version that you want, but I don't think there's any undesirable or unattractive examples of this new Prospex Alpinist out there. So yeah, this wouldn't necessarily be the one that I would have chosen, but I mean, the price was just too good to ignore. So yeah, I can now recommend this watch if you can find it roughly half price. Beautiful watch, actually. Just don't like it. I wonder if the loom's improved. Let's yeah, let it degrade for 5 minutes and see what happens. Right, 5 minutes is up, and yeah, they look pretty much the same. No improvement on the new watch, and the loom is still pretty visible. So yeah, looks good. So here's the new watch on my roughly average sized wrist. I think it looks really good. Love the dimensions, love the case shape. Beautiful, beautiful watch. And the tail of the strap is exactly where it's supposed to be as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, unfortunately, this part of the buckle here, or clasp, is digging into my wrist, and that is really quite uncomfortable. So let me now put it back to how it should be. So this is how the watch arrived, with the strap this way round. And as you can see, the tail of the strap, it doesn't matter how close to the end I'm putting this retainer. This little end here is definitely catching on my clothes. It's just going to continue to catch and probably eventually get damaged. And it just doesn't look right, does it? This sort of bulky section here on the inside of my wrist isn't how we are used to seeing watches, and I just can't get used to it. I don't get it. Am I making a big fuss over nothing? Let me know in the comments section. Am I the only one that seems to have an issue with this? Now, how much better does that look? Yeah, far more comfortable as well. Even this strap not being particularly soft and malleable. I've worn it a little bit, but probably not enough to soften it up completely. But yeah, even like this, with it being, well, still quite stiff, far more comfortable than the new watch. Yeah, love it. Look at that. Awesome.